First of all, I must say that this is actually amazing for me to see that I put out a couple of posts on social media, and here we are, around 40 to 50 people gathering. So I'm just very privileged. I'm very grateful that you guys took that time. Through my videos, you've seen that I try to share the best ideas that I know. And I get a lot of comments, of course, that it has helped some people, and it feels really good. But I want to now take this a step further, right? So first of all, I have to clarify this, that whatever we are doing ultimately will be shared publicly, right? Because ultimately we are making another video, so to say. But here, what I'm trying to do is I'm also trying to make a community, which is how can we work together? So I'll give you a brief idea on the plan here. The plan here is that I'm going to be sharing some new ideas here, and then I'm going to be leaving you with some homework, right? Something that you can do, you can apply. What I want right now is a shared space where we can discuss what we have learned, what we have applied, right? And how will we do that? At the end of each session, I'll be sharing with you a form, right? And in that form, you'll be sharing with me all those learnings and all those changes that you are experiencing. And then I will have a separate session only with those people who fill that form properly, so that we can talk about the changes that they are experiencing. So for now, let's begin with the actual session and the idea. So let's start with some big questions of life. Too big, and it feels almost too bulky to handle, but I'm still going to try, right? Well, the core question that we're going to probably start with is, what makes for a good life, right? And this is the question, even if you don't ask, you are constantly searching for this, like in your efforts day to day, how you're driven. You are trying for better and better things, even if you don't have that framework, how to approach a better life. So I'm going to demarcate a good life between two major categories. These are not necessarily compartmentalized, but this is a good division. So the first category is, first thing that you need for a good life is a good functional existence in the physical world. What does that mean? It just means that you can think of it in a very animalistic way. Like, even how would a cow or a dog have a good life, right? And because biologically, I do believe in evolution, that we are ultimately just animals, a little more evolved with better cognitive capabilities. So our needs are first grounded in the physical world. Like, we need the survival, we need to procreate also, to continue the generation, to continue humanity. Then we need some basic means, right? We need food, we need a good temperature around us, we need clothing to protect ourselves from harsh, things. We need good health. Again, a physical thing. We need medical security. Then we ultimately need a good political environment. We need so much just to have a stable life where we can just survive and thrive. And it's absolutely essential. And it's important to point this out, because some people mistakenly think that it's all about happiness. Ultimately, everything is about happiness. Not necessarily. But happiness is important, and which is the second element. So the first was good existence in the physical world. The second one is good internal experience. So if you have these two things figured out, you can have a good life. So now I'm going to talk about good internal experience, right? What does that mean? You can interchangeably talk about it in the terms of happiness, contentment, peace. Like, all of those things come into that good experience. And it usually involves minimizing undesirable emotions, suffering, all of things. Suffering could be of any kind, less or big, and maximizing positive emotions like joy, camaraderie, happiness, and laughter, smiling, all of those positive emotions, right? So it's generally that. Although our whole experience is bigger than that. We do have images, we do have thoughts, we just have computation. So experience is complex, but the most important thing is we want to have a lot of positive emotions, happiness, joy, and we want to reduce the suffering. So if you can do those two things, you can have a good life. So how do you achieve those two things? Now again, I'm going to broadly divide it. I'm going to tell the one thing which is needed for both. So to live a great life in the physical world, right? What do you need? You need knowledge, you need information, you need education, right? And you use that knowledge to solve problems around you. Solve problems like how to build a house, solve problems like how to have electricity run from this city to that city, right? Solving problems like how to store the food in the refrigerator. How are we able to do all of those things? Through knowledge, right? We have a lot of information accumulated over centuries, in fact millennia, right? And now we are using that to make our lives better, and this is what we call progress. So we have used knowledge to solve problems to achieve progress, and that progress ultimately lets us have a good life. Okay, and the second is the good internal experience, and for that, what do you need? You need wisdom. So I'm going to get to wisdom in detail, but for now what I want to tell you is that basically wisdom means that all of those ideas which can lead to happiness, contentment and peace. I'll define it more clearly as we go on. So now I repeat that happiness is not the ultimate goal of life, but it is a very important goal. And a good functional existence in the physical world is also very important. And I say this because some people really romanticize the idea of leaving everything. So for example, in some philosophies, like people who completely become monks or say, you know what, ये दुनिया का जंजाल पूरा छोड़ो, सब छोड़ो, ये मोह माया है, just go to your solitude, just meditation करो, वो करो. I disagree with that approach, because I do think that progress in the physical world, which comes through a lot of problem solving and knowledge, it does affect our overall experience of life. And just to give you a small piece of data, it's been known through research that poverty, if you're absolutely poor, your actually mental health goes down. So the poorer you get, when your condition becomes really harsh, it affects your mental health too. So because then you have to worry about where the next meal is going to come from. You have constant stresses on you. You feel very low in social hierarchy. So just to give you one example how physical. So people say, right, that money does not matter, that ultimately it's about your internal experience, whether you're rich or poor. No, that's not true. That's too simplistic. I'm saying money does matter, but to a certain degree, right? So we cannot have either or black and white answers to these questions. Life is complex. So to some extent, money matters a lot. And after a certain point, it stops mattering as much. And then what matters is what goes on inside your brain, right? So this is why everything matters. Everything is part of the bigger equation. So now I'm not here to give you knowledge, because knowledge could be about anything. It could be about cooking, it could be about architecture, it could be about physics, all of those things. That is taken care of by our education systems. So many books are written there, and it's huge, it's unlimited. There's no end to this, right? But the good news is you don't need unlimited knowledge. You need to know how to cook your food. Maybe you need to know how to protect yourself from danger. You need to know how to probably file your bank returns. You just need some limited knowledge in your life to get by. You don't need the whole, and the same is true for wisdom. But the good news is wisdom, if you really get down to the core principles, is actually not too wide. And if in this journey, my goal is to give you like top 50, 100 principles. As each session comes forward, this is what I'm going to do, right? In each session, I'm going to be sharing with you some important principles. And my hope is that, not exactly my hope, it's my understanding that even if you master the top 50 principles, you can have a much, much better life, right? So, the good news is that mastering 50 or understanding 50 principles is actually not that big of a deal. You can probably do that in 5-6 months or 1 year, and then you have the rest of your life to apply them. So that's the good news. So, and that's what I'm going to be doing here. Now, wisdom is also typically given by people around you. So it's not like you all are waking up or living in a vacuum. I am very humble and modest in that way, that each person knows a lot, but then they miss out on a lot too. So my goal is to, how do you take that next step, and then how do you take that next step? So today, before I go into how exactly I'm going to do it, I want to share what I mean by wisdom. And I think this definition is very important. What do I really mean by wisdom? So technically, I am not the one who can claim what's right or wrong in life. Technically, nobody in the world has the authority to tell you that this is better or worse and just say, okay, this is certified. If somebody does that, please reject it. Everybody who says that this is better must be able to give you an argument, a reason behind it. Why is it good? Why is it better? So when I say wisdom, I obviously mean it that these are better ideas. It means that probably some people, we all have foolish ideas, unwise ideas, and as you make them better, you do go to wiser ideas. Now, how can I tell you? So the reason why I'm able to tell you is ultimately there are some ideas that lead to more and more well-being, happiness, peace, and there are some ideas that lead to more and more suffering. We can take a small example here. So let's say a husband, not to be like this can happen by the other way around too. A husband thinks the best way to organize life is that I am the captain of the house and I dominate everything, let's say, and because I know so well, I'm so experienced, the household should be run by me, I'm the captain. And then they start to dominate everybody, the wife and the children and sometimes even their own parents. And we have all kinds of examples where this happens. So that person who thinks that domination is important, that person is actually thinking of the good here. They're thinking that they're actually doing it for everybody. They think that domination actually makes for a better family. There will be more disciplined. There will be better decision making because everybody listens to that rational person that the husband is. So he's thinking that, you know what, this organization, this framework is best and let's just go with it. And the answer is it best? Obviously not, but it's not the worst either. It's not like it's black or white. Again, with domination, there are some benefits. The benefits is sometimes he will be right. Sometimes due to him, because everybody fears them, they will comply immediately. So for example, if he says, today we have to work out, everybody, or eat good food. So everybody will eat good food because that person said so. So there are some benefits too. But we have to then think deeper. Can we organize society that way? So the larger than question would, what if everybody started doing that? And the moment you ask that question, suddenly everything changes. So we have to assume that we are all equal. So if one person starts to behave in a certain way, and if everybody else starts to do it, how will the world look like? So in this example, what if the wife now suddenly learns that domination is an amazing thing, and now I want to do that too? What if the children start learning that too? How will the household look like? So the idea here is, once you do not give yourself any special preference, once you don't act like you are superior or you are the central figure in the universe, once you realize that you are just equal to everybody else, then you have to ask the question that whatever I do, other people can do the same. And then when they do the same, what will happen? So this is kind of the basis of morality also, right? And this is why when I talk about wisdom, my line is that what are the things that you can do that can lead to well-being, and if everybody else did the same, it would not hurt your well-being. So let me explain that. So again, the idea is that if say you wanted to steal, and that's good for your well-being because you got a lot of money without doing anything, but then if everybody else started stealing, tomorrow you can be bankrupt. So clearly stealing is not scalable. So what we want is, we want in this society some ideas that are scalable, which if everybody started doing it, it would work out, right? And this is one of the litmus tests of if it's a wise idea or not. That is it leading to well-being? Is it scalable or not? So these are like two things. There is one more test for wise ideas, which is truth, right? Is it related to reality or not? So, okay, now I'm going to be very clear with my affiliations here, ideological affiliations here, which is I am a rationalist and I do not believe in supernatural things because they're just simply not supported by the natural sciences. So what I mean to say here is any ideas that I bring forward, they must somehow conform to the physical reality. So for example, if I talk about my mind, it must take into account the nature of my brain, the physical brain, right? And if I'm talking about like how the world works, I have to take into account what I've known for so far. So for example, how did we come here? Now I can say that we were created Each religion will, let's say, have their own answers to how did we end up in this universe. But what do I go by? I go by the evolutionary perspective, because I think that's closest to reality. And I have a firm belief that when you stay close to reality, when you when you confirm your truths, those ideas are more scalable. Because when you go into the supernatural world or pseudoscience or fake ideas, then they come in conflict with other fake ideas, and then there is contradictions, there is gridlock, right? So it's like one person can say seasons are happening because gods are doing it. Other person could be saying seasons are happening because of the mood of the population. I don't know. And then how do they resolve this? So the same way for wisdom also, we must have some basis on how this mind works, what is the nature of our life, and what leads to happiness. These are good questions, even scientific questions, which can be answered by observing people, very closely observing reality. So for me, if it's something pseudoscientific, it's something fake, supernatural, I don't consider it as wise. I stick to ideas which are based in science and reality. Okay. So this is my framework of what I consider to be wiser ideas. Okay. Now, what I want to tell you is the nature of your mind. Briefly, I want to touch upon that, because this will really give you a picture on why am I talking about wisdom and principles so much. Okay. So we are all interested in happiness, and we all want positive emotions. We all want to avoid suffering. Suffering could be anything. Like, for example, your career is not taking off, or people close to you are criticizing you a lot, or it could simply be that you are doubting yourself too much. You have lost a lot of confidence. You're comparing yourself to other people a lot, and maybe your expectations from your marriage are completely disappointed. So it could be so many things, right? You just want to get rid of those, and those things are problematic because they give you negative emotions, like you're angry, you're disappointed, you're sad, you're feeling lonely. There's so many negative emotions. And then you want to achieve a lot of positive emotions too, which is you want to play, you want to laugh with other people, you want to feel excitement, you want to feel joy, you want to feel so many things. So what really is behind emotions? Now, this is where I come to psychology, the basic science. I don't know how many people have heard of this, the psychotherapy called CBT. If anybody has heard of it, can you just show of hands, please? I just want to see if anybody has heard of CBT, just to see. Yeah, some people have actually. So that's great. Yeah, all right. In fact, 10 people have said, yeah, they've heard of CBT. So I'll give you the very basics of what's happening in psychotherapy and how life-changing is happening. So you can think of it like A, B, C. Okay. A is, we call activating events, like things that are happening. So for example, your wife shouted at you, your mother criticized you. So this is event. This is happening in your life. B is what you think about those events, and C is the consequential emotions. How will you feel later on? Will you feel angry? Will you feel revengeful? Will you feel whatever you feel? So that is C, consequential emotions. So what happens in your life is, typically, you go from A to C very quickly without even realizing it. It's almost automatic. Somebody criticizes you, how dare you? Like, you fight back. Somebody says, I wish you could have done this better. Why don't you do it? Right? So it's like you're just fighting back immediately. Like, if somebody made a small comment you're like, you immediately like, you know what, that person does not like me. Or you made even with your work, you failed one time and you're like, you know what, I'm a failure. And you immediately have those emotions of self-defeat. So you go from A to C very quickly. What you don't realize that those emotions that you're feeling, there are some automatic belief systems behind them, the B part. How are you interpreting it? So a small example could be, my favorite one is very simple one. So a child drops a glass of milk, right? So the father comes in and gets really angry, like what? Because the father is really strict. How irresponsible! The child is just 4 or 5 years, and he's like, 4 or 5 years, you're so big right now. Why can't you just take care of those things? And sometimes they slap also, they shout, like, because the carpet is ruined now. But the mother comes in, and mother is like, this is just a child, first of all, and secondly, this could have happened from an adult too. An adult can make the same mistake too, and the mother doesn't say anything, just cleans it up. So one A is the same for mother and father, which is activating event, the child dropping the glass, right, and the milk spilling out. But the B is very different. The husband, the father is thinking that this is irresponsible. His belief system is that a 5-year-old child should be able to manage a glass well, and if not, then the child has not learned enough skill. The child is clumsy, and I've told him the last time, why is he not learning enough? He's a slow learner, and all of those beliefs. And those lead to what? Those lead to anger, right? And then the wife's beliefs are that holding a glass is not exactly a big test, and people drop glasses all the time. It's mistake. Anybody can make the mistake, and the child is actually young. It will get better naturally, and even if it does not, it's not that big of an issue. So completely different interpretation, and the wife's resulting emotions are she's just fine with it. She just tells the child, oh, she actually goes and soothes the child. The child says, it's okay, doesn't matter. Go ahead, go play. I'll clean it up, or maybe help me clean this up. Okay, so this simple example has given you the entire workings of happiness or your emotions or your thoughts. This is your life, by the way. Any emotion that you can think of, whatever you're going through, behind that, there are some belief systems. There are some ways of looking at the world which are either wise or unwise. So in this case, we can say the husband was unwise, the wife was wise, because we don't want anger, criticism where it's not necessary and where it's not helpful. So it's not like his anger would suddenly teach the child new skills. It won't. So now, our goal here is to, whenever you're going through something, to trace it back to some key ideas. What are you thinking? And in your thinking, in those belief systems, if you gradually correct the faulty principles, the faulty ideas, and the unwise ideas, and just keep replacing them with better and wiser ideas, your emotions keep changing. So in a way, it's a lifelong work, but the 80-90% which can have an amazing impact on your life can happen very, very quickly, right? But this is the mechanism. You take one principle, you replace something else which you had there, and then just you live it, you understand it, and you apply it. And then you'll see not even a result, a change in your emotions, you'll actually also see a change in your behavior, in how you take action, right? So this is what I'm going to be hoping to do. Now, for that, there is one thing which is absolutely necessary. What is that? You first accepting the fact that you could be mistaken, that you could be making mistakes, you are flawed, you are wrong, you are sometimes very foolish. Because if you don't accept that, then the learning cannot take place. And one of the fundamental principles, and you can think of it like the first principle that I'm telling you. The first principle is that you must admit to lifelong admitting of I don't know enough and lifelong learning. So like we are constant and everlasting work in progress. Like we never stop learning, we never stop being wrong. Like even in this stage, I have done so much work in this field, but still every day when I study something, I learn something new, and it makes my life, my thinking, and my emotions, my experience even better. So technically, if I stop learning today, I have enough skills, enough principles in my mind that I can manage pretty much any situation. But still, I want to keep improving. But for many people, their journeys haven't even started. And if they've started, it's not started very seriously. They just listen to those ideas. Yeah, it makes sense, but then ultimately go back to the old routine, and that's a very common occurrence. It must happen with my videos too. So many times you might have watched one of my videos, you might have liked an idea, and it might have stayed with you for a day or maybe even less than that, and then you're back to normal, and that's completely a normal way the life works. But now we're going to take it a step further, and we're actually going to try to apply it. So in this case, like I said, the first principle, you must always remember that you could be doing something wrong. And that's actually going to be my first exercise. So you can think of it like a test also. Like if you cannot find any faults in you, then maybe this is not for you. Then maybe there's no point in us talking. Then maybe you're better off just feeling very confident and right in yourself, and you're welcome to your own life. But if you genuinely want to improve, that acceptance that I could be wrong, and you could be wrong in anything, by the way. You could be wrong in how you approach your work. You could be wrong in how you behave in your relationships, like how you talk, what you say, what decisions you make. Like in any element, in every element, there is scope for improvement. So my first exercise is very clear. I'm going to be sharing with you a form, right? And in that form, you have to write a couple of things. One is, what according to you, and this is going to take some introspection, what according to you, you could be doing wrong. And you usually write, when I ask people to say those things, they write things like, you know what, I wish I could procrastinate less, maybe I could work harder, maybe I need to talk to people. What they write like harmless things that don't really hurt their ego. Okay, but since I know that happens, I'm going to take it to the next level. So the second question that I'm going to ask in that form is that what do you think other people close to you think is wrong with you? So what does your mom think is wrong with you? What does your what does your wife, what do your or husband or children or your friends, what do people close to you think is wrong with you? Okay. Now this could be, because this exercise could make you actually very angry in the moment. This could backfire for a while. This could lead to some fights also, but this is something that you must go through, right? Because when you, and I'll tell you why it's so absolutely important, it's so crucial, because so many times when you hear criticism from other people, your natural response is just defensiveness. Like you tell them why you're doing something, you just keep telling them, you know what, I had a reason for it, why don't you understand me? And you don't take the time to just see it from their perspective, right? And you don't really understand their argument. So what I want you to then do is, first just think about whether you agree with it or not. It's okay. So even if your wife says that, okay, you're stupid, write that down. My wife thinks I'm stupid. Okay. Even if your parents say that you will never succeed in life, that's what they criticize it. Write that. Okay. My parents think that about me. It's fine. What I first want you to say is, are you even aware of criticisms that people have for you? Like if I ask you that exercise, do you even know what people think of you? Like, can you go in depth and come up with those answers? So it's a question on your social perception also. So first you write that, and then the final question will be about which of those criticisms do you sincerely agree with and would like to change? And that's where you really have to put aside your ego and get into the learning mode. So this is the exercise. And only those people who have submitted it, I will be sending the next Zoom link to them, and we will have a separate meeting. So it's like we have right now something around 60 people. So even if it's one person who has done it, I will have a meeting with you for sure. Because if you are working, then I am going to talk about it with you, right? And for now, this is what's most important to me, that how do you actually apply this in your life? So even if it's one person, I will have that meeting. Okay? These videos can help you to some degree, but if your problems are really serious or painful, you should come for counseling. We now have a team of psychologists who can help you and your family live a much better life. Here are some feedbacks from our clients. If you wish to take counseling from us, go to our website page www.sridharlifeschool.com/counsel. Click on this link and fill this application form. We will get back to you soon.